What's up, Mac Nostalgia? Dave here with a review of The Pitt Season 1 on Max. I love this show. I think this show is absolutely tremendous. One of the great first seasons of an ongoing series in recent memory, and certainly the best show of 2025 thus far. The Pitt, of course, medical drama series from Scott Gemmell and John Wells, both ER veterans, and of course the series stars Noah Wyle, himself, of course, famously part of the ER ensemble back in the day. And this series, man, I think, kind of coming with limited fanfare in early January and then going week to week for 15 weeks from January to April. Man, what a ride. What a return to more traditional television storytelling, of course, with the longer runtime of the series. Thankfully, this show is already back in production with its plans to return next January, so there's not a long wait. Again, we're back to like old school TV vibes with how the show operates and functions, which is great. But man, I was so wrapped from the second I watched this show, and I'm not even someone who watches procedurals, who watches medical shows or anything like that, but I thought this show was really just kind of transcendent after a while. The Pitt Season 1 is one of the best first seasons in recent memory because it takes you on such an incredible journey with all of its characters. By the end of this first season, you are so connected, so attached to so many characters of all shapes and sizes. Characters you thought you understood, you thought you disliked. They're colored in such a way that your opinion completely changes. You care about so many characters. Noah Wile's performance as Dr. Robbie, so essential to how this show works, but there's so many other people that really crush it on the series as well. Going in, you might think the framing of one episode equals 1 hour at the same day of an emergency room would become gimmicky after a while. But the consistency, the pace, the way the show handles tension, the way the show handles humor, really challenging subject matter, I think it just has such a verve to how it tells its story. And I really can't wait for the show to come back. I mean, there's so many things to think about with the show. I think one thing that's pretty cool is the way it plants seeds for stories to come back later in the season. There's litany of characters, whether they're patients or other doctors, people at the hospital, tons of things, too many to name, that like come back around, right? Some are foreshadowed, some are really just kind of red herrings, right? Some stuff comes up, doesn't come back up again. I think that's cool. It kind of speaks to the more traditional aspect of what this series is. There's going to be patients and stories that come in, and then they get discharged maybe an episode or two, and they're gone. And that is what it is. Not everything needs to be an ongoing thread, but the show has just enough ongoing threads that makes the plot progression fun. But of course, that's also separate from our journey with all of these characters, right? When you think of like all the new the first year students, the med students, or first year doctors, however you call them, when they show up, right? Dr. Santos, you think she's going to be like the complete villain, the person you despise the most, but her character goes on quite the journey throughout the season, right? Dr. Mohan as well, another character I think you go on quite the journey with. Certainly, a character I've really enjoyed by the end. Dr. Mel as well, big fan of hers. Everything that happens with Dr. Langdon, of course, one of the senior residents, and Nurse Dana as like the rock of the ER. Incredible stuff from her. I think I might want to shout out Catherine Lanassa, who plays Nurse Dana. Incredible stuff from her. And if you think about like, man, like I just thought like there was so many episodes where the show just kept getting better. Like I think of like episode 10 as like this huge breakout as the show continued to consistently level up throughout its run. And then you get to the multi-episode climax of the season, of course, the mass casualty event at Pitt Fest, where the hospital gets inundated by all these victims of a mass shooter at a music festival. And you have, I think the first episode of the shooting at the hospital, the intensity and the drama and also the sadness of that episode, that's probably like the signature episode of the series, and to me the best episode of TV thus far this year. Like that's the Emmy episode for sure. I mean, I was absolutely riveted by that stuff. I think it was really powerful. And then you had this season finale where it's almost like a come down. It's like a slow back down as the shift finally ends for all those people we've been with. And I think it's done in a real graceful way. And what's super cool about how this season was constructed too is HBO asked for it to be 15 episodes instead of 12. So as a result, that's 15 hours, right? Longer than a shift at the hospital, a shift at the ER. So as a result, the show gets to seamlessly bring in the night shift, and then like in episode 12 or whatever, you're meeting all these other doctors and getting attached to all these new characters, including Dr. Abbott, who you meet in the very first scene of the first episode. I thought that was just a really tactful way to expand the cast, expand the ensemble, but also have the season operate, within the gray areas of one shift. Of course, as all these people are working overtime because of this crazy event that happened. And we know that when the show comes back, it's been announced recently that several months are going to pass, with 8 months, 10 months, whatever it is. So that'll be cool, especially for the younger doctors to see what happens. Time for more new characters to show up. And I believe it's going to be around July 4th weekend is the premise we're hearing. So something will be different, But man, I think it's just such a well done show that's kind of operating successfully at everything it does, right? It's not just procedural, but like, man, like I think the character drama, the 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 progression of various character dynamics is really impressive, and I just really over the moon for the show. Can't wait for it to be back. I thought it was absolutely excellent, and it's probably going to be a super rewatchable show for that matter. It's also going to be a show that's going to get progressively more popular as people binge this and catch this up. The word of mouth is very strong at this point. More and more people are watching it. It's very exciting. And I just hope that, HBO, even though it's not technically an HBO show, I hope that, Warner Brothers and whatnot, I hope they campaign the show strongly at the Emmys. Of course, they did that with Hacks, which is a Max show, not an HBO show. So we can hope. And frankly, The Pitt probably should be a 9 p.m. HBO drama series, to be honest. I think that would be pretty cool. Maybe that can happen for next season. A la how The Penguin transitioned to HBO after being a Max original only in its conception. We'll see. But yeah, The Pitt, incredible stuff. I'm going to be pissed if it doesn't do well at the Emmys. Let me know. What did you like most about The Pitt? What was your favorite episode? What was your favorite character? Let me know. And for more TV reviews, subscribe. I'll see you next time.